Basically, it's about you we're speaking about, but we can't do this discussion without talking about Dr. Edward Mahama. It's not possible.
Sure.
And Dr. Edward Mahama actually tried to be president of this country in 1996, 2000, 2004, 2008. And he seemed to have established himself. I know that in your party, many were calling that he should perhaps step aside for some new blood to come in. But he still decided to contest, and you came up against him. Were you surprised by yourself, by your own performance and ability to beat him?
Not at all. I wasn't surprised because I started very early to campaign for the presidential slot. I started somewhere last year after my first appearance to contest for the flag bearership, somewhere 14th of April. Then I started campaigning around to revive the party and its structures. Over the years, the party has been so dormant to the extent that people never even thought the PNC existed anymore. So what I did was to start campaigning to make sure the grassroots, the people in Ghana, remember the PNC once again. So I went around from constituency, from region to region, reviving the party, in the process introducing more young people into the party. That was what I did. So Dr. Mahama didn't realize that I was ejecting more youth into the system, but he thought I was just going around. But I was recruiting more young people to become delegates and part of the PNC and reviving it in a beautiful and nice way.
I see. And have you spoken to Dr. Mahama after the election?
No, we haven't spoken.
You haven't?
No, I'm told he's in the Upper East, meeting with some delegates. But I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
But let's say congratulations to you. I mean, I'm sure to many neutrals who perhaps haven't been very close to your party, etc. Some had assumed that Dr. Mahama really was going to carry it. And somehow you've really shown that perhaps hard work is all that you need to do this. But what do you think is the reason why you won? Apart from all the campaign that you did and all the rallying of the youth and all that, what was it that made you manage to edge out Dr. Mahama?
A lot of things. A lot of things. You know, campaigning is one important thing that in politics that it matters. Whatever you are doing, you need to know where you are coming from. Okay. Once you're able to know where you're coming from, definitely you're able to know where you're going. What I did was that I started so early, like I said, but then because the party was dying, people didn't have hope again in Dr. Edward Mahama. People thought that no, PNC to revive, we needed somebody to survive. PNC to survive, we needed somebody to revive it.
Why do you say it was dying?
Yeah, looking at the figures from 1996, after the party was handed over to Dr. Edward Mahama, you know, I want to make this thing clear. Dr. Edward Mahama did not contest our former leader, that is Dr. Hilary Imam. Right. It was not a contest. It was some kind of handing over ceremony when the leader realized that with 6.7 as a former president of this country, he can't go to polls with it.
That was 1992.
That was 1992, after the boycotting of the election. Yes. So Imam thought that it was wise to bring in somebody to succeed, but not to contest. Okay. Because Dr. Mahama wouldn't have been able to beat Dr. Hilary Imam. Okay. No, not at all. Okay. So he brought in Dr. Edward Mahama from the US, and Dr. Mahama took over from Dr. Hilary Imam. Now, it went on, and Dr. Edward Mahama wasn't able to perform he wasn't able to maintain the figures. He wasn't able to increase the figures. Neither was he able to increase the number of parliamentarians, nor increase the number of party offices or structures. So the party kept on retrogressing and retrogressing. So some of us, I for instance, have been in the party since I was 17 years old.
I see.
Because my father was the first MP of the PMP, Dr. Hilary Imam's time. And Ayariga, that's my father, who was then
Frank Abdullah
Ayariga, who was the first MP for Boku Central.
Right.
So as at that time, it was one constituency. So we participated in politics. So as young as I was able to meet with Dr. Hilary Imam, and we had political talks like a young man. Then I grew up in this politics, and after 1981 coup, then where former President Rawlings had a coup, and then we went on exile. I went on exile with my dad
I see.
So I stayed in exile for 6 years.
Where?
In Nigeria.
Okay.
So that's where I went to.
So how old were you then at the time of the coup, 1981?
In 1981, I was almost 20 years.
Almost 20?
20 years.
Okay, so that would make you about 40 years now?
Yes, I was almost 20 years. So we went on exile, and then we went to school in Nigeria, and then after 1987, when former President Rawlings said that Limam's hands were clean, and that all the ministers and MPs should return home. So we were part of those people who came back home again. So I went on exile because of the same party.
Okay.
So I don't believe in just what people think, but I believe that the party needed to move forward from where it was. So from 6.7, we retrogressed to about 0.8 in 2008. And one sees some kind of drastical reduce in the number of votes. So it didn't help us. So some of us thought that, no, it is time for the youth among the PNC to come up and do something different from what the old age were doing.
Okay.
So I thought that it was necessary for somebody who has gone through all these series of problems with the party, series of migration from one country to another because of this. I thought it was necessary to preserve what our fathers built. Okay. Everybody has a tradition, right, and you need to believe in the tradition and where you come from. You cannot jump from your tradition to somebody's tradition. So we try to revive the party for survival.
Is your relationship with Dr. Mahama acrimonious?
You know, the first house I built was in 2002, right? And Dr. Edward Mahama was my guest of honor, and he opened that house for me. 2 of my kids were born in Dr. Edward Mahama's clinic, and he has always been a leader. And for me, I've always respected him as a father and as a leader. So most of the time when I come from Europe, I go to his house first to find out how the party was going, and so many issues. So he has always been somebody I have always looked up to.
Okay.
But
would he have a role in your campaign? Sure.
Politics is about people trying to...
I asked all of this against the backdrop that you have not even spoken to him after the election.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. After the election is just 5 days from now. Okay. I think I was in Sunyani. I came 2 days ago because I have to stay behind and look at some of the bills that were left behind. Okay. So many broken tables and furnitures and few hotel bills. I had to sort those things out. So I stayed until Friday. Wednesday I came back. And Dr. Mahama right now is in the north campaigning. I hope he's campaigning for the party and for myself. So I'm glad he's doing that.
Is it correct you're born in 1971?
Yeah, sure.
In September?
12th September.
Okay, so you must be 40 years old thereabout?
Yes, 40.
Okay, and that's quite young for flag bearer. Do you, and if I'm not mistaken, constitutionally, you are just at the limit of the age that qualifies you to become president of this country, because the minimum age is 40 for president, as a matter of fact. So you probably will be the youngest flag bearer we have had in our political history. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, sure, I am.
Does it mean anything to you?
A lot, a lot. Now, let me be very honest with you. Dr. Edward Mahama is a leader, very good leader, of course, even though he has not been able to perform to expectation which the PNC required of him. But I want to emphasize on this. Defeating Dr. Edward Mahama was, I think, is more difficult than defeating Atta Mills.
Really?
Yes.
You have to explain that to me.
Very well.
Because if, according to your analysis, and I have the figures right before me,
yes,
1996, 3% of the total votes. I don't have the exact figures.
3.5.
No, I don't have the exact number of votes.
Yes.
But then 2000, 2.5%. It came down by 0.5.
Exactly.
189,659. 2004, it went further down, 165,000 plus to 1.9%. And then the last election, even further down to 73,000, which is 0.9% or so.
0.8.
Okay, well, the figure I have here is 0.9. My source is Wikipedia. But that may be true. It depends on what your source for your figure is. And we know that statistically it may not be very significant. If that is the kind of decline you have seen, and Atta Mills, starting from contesting against J.A. Kufuor, bettering his lot, coming up, out of opposition, managing to then beat Nana Akufo-Addo, have a second round, etc., and making all that progress. How can it be more difficult beating Dr. Edward Mahama with this showing than it would be to beat Professor Mills?
You look at the duration of the time which everybody occupied that office. Now, Dr. Edward Mahama was there for 16 years.
Okay.
Practically, he dominated and had access to everybody and was ruling.
But that's just one party.
That is a party, but it's not easy not easy at all to remove him from that party.
Okay. But good point you make there.
Are you getting what I'm saying? Sure. It wasn't easy at all. 4 people tried to remove him and no one could. Even myself, he thought I wouldn't be able to remove him. Sure. But I used some kind of strategy that he didn't understand. So it was very difficult in strategizing how to take him out. Okay, it was not only hard work alone, but a lot of strategies that you have to implement those policies and programs and follow them and make sure that you were able to have real accuracy about your figures and how you wanted to do. Dr. Mahama is not just an easy person in the PNC. I tell you, even if you put Professor Mills to beat Dr. Mahama in the PNC, he can't beat him in the PNC.
That will not be strange.
Yes,
I don't think that Edward Mahama can beat Mills in the NDC. And none of them can beat Nana Akufo-Addo in the NPP. So that is to be understood.
Yes. So it was very, very tough. It came to a point that we were leading Dr. Mahama with just 1 vote. Right. And then it was boot to boot.
All right.
Okay. So
at the end of the day was what, 30-something?
50-something.
50-something. Okay.
50-something.
All right. So that was a good showing. But I was asking about your age, 40 years. What's the idea about doing this now? Is this to give you time so that even if you don't win 2012, you know the next one you are 44, you know the next one you are 48, or what's the idea behind stepping in at the very boundary age?
I think I am one of the luckiest person in this world, because everything about me started so early. All right. I had the opportunity to go to school very early. Okay. At the age, some very young age, I completed 6th form, and I happened to be one of the youngest 6th formers at Hassan then. And it's most of
what age was that?
Oh, in 1990, I completed the O levels and A levels. Okay. Okay, and I was about 19, 18 years in the north. Okay. Okay, and I was almost sitting down with my fathers in the classroom. Okay, my trouser was very small and very big on me, and I used to be like a small boy among the old men. Okay. All right. Now it went on and on until this election. Okay. And so many things. Even when I was in Germany, I was an accountant in one of the companies, and I was the smallest. I was the youngest person in the company. Okay. So people look up to me and said, "How did you get up to here?" And then I said, "I don't know. I think it's hard work, and I believe." Now with the presidency, Ghanaians don't believe in themselves. A lot of young people think that I can't do it, I can't make it. But you see, it's he who fails to plan, plans to fail. When you don't know where you are going, that's when you never know when you get there. Okay. So in life, people need to start believing in themselves, giving themselves the hope that, look, I can do it. If somebody can do it, why can't you do it? So I had that kind of philosophy in me that I always wanted to do the best thing out of the best. So I tried in all my life to do something better than people. So
what's your biggest achievement in life?
A lot. My first house, I built it when I was, I think about 25.
Where was that? 25. Where?
In Accra here.
In Accra.
I bought my first car when I was 16 years old. Okay. 19, 16 years old. Okay. You know, a lot of things I started so much very early.
How did you come by money that early in your life?
It's everybody's luck. I told you I started everything very early. One time I came on holidays to Accra and I was in school. So I happened to get to a articulated station where we called our venue. Okay. And some people were selling some goods and they wanted money. So I was giving my chop money to use to buy food stuff and shop. So I decided to buy what they were having. And I went back to town and I sold it. And I made so much, I think more than 10 times the profit. Okay. So business started moving. So I did business in school. So I always tried to do something different from others. So I did all these things and I was able to move, and gradually I was always moving up.
Talking about doing things early in life, how old or how young were you when you got married?
The first marriage I had, I was 22, 23. I married a white lady.
I see, in Germany?
Yes, in Germany.
Oh, tell me about it.
I married a white lady in Germany, and
for how long?
For very long, for about